So today's lockdown video is unbelievably lockdown video number 9, and it's the final of the lockdown videos because from a retailing perspective, of course, lockdown is over on Monday. Our stores finally open their doors again. I know exactly where I'm going to be on Monday, and that is running down Kingston High Street in a state of extreme excitement, with my mask, maybe or maybe not on. So I thought today, having talked incessantly at this camera throughout lockdown, it might be fun for you to see another face. So I've invited Amy Turland to join me today, and Amy's one of my all-time favourite merchandisers. We've been working together on her career and friends since 2005. She's worked for a wide range of retailers. Still working on it. She's worked for Arcadia, for Debenhams, Help Me Out, House of Fraser, River Island, Mothercare, Jane Norman.
A few goodies.
It's been a wide-ranging career, and why I think Amy is particularly interesting as an example to talk about a career in merchandising is because through her career she's touched all sorts of different departments across ladies, men's, kids wear, homeware, and chocolates, where she is now working at Hotel Chocolat. So thank you for joining me, Amy.
Thank you for having me.
So I suppose first of all, the obvious question is, what drew you first of all to a career in merchandising?
So my career as advisor at school, when I was in 5th year, 6th form, I had no idea what I wanted to do. She asked what I liked. I said shopping, and she told me I could do a degree in retail and merchandising. So I did that.
Which is unusual, because was merchandising even particularly well known then?
Not
that this was 1927.
No. I didn't know a lot about it. I researched it. I applied for a few courses that did retail marketing, retail merchandising, distribution, and all tied in together. And then towards the end of it was a 4-year degree, I did a year out in retail. I worked in Fenwick and Brent Cross for a year, and then just started to flick through the appointment magazine. Saw that merch admin assistants popped up quite a lot and read about that. That was that, really. Quick interview with a recruitment agency and straight things.
Do you think it was easier to get into merchandising then? I mean, in as much as now it's so competitive because it's so well known, or do you think that obviously you just bedazzled anyway back in the day?
I felt I got into it really quickly. I had a couple of interviews in London with some recruiters, and they did an interview and a maths test, and then they sent me for interviews, and I got a job within about a week at Evans. I think it was an interview. Now,
which is a speed that does happen now. It can be that people get jobs that quickly, but it can be they're looking for months as well.
Yeah. But especially working in some of the bigger companies, I worked into House of Fraser and Arcadia. It's a huge selection process. So there'd be telephone screens, and then you might have 12 to 15 candidates. They'd be with you all day. For a merch admin or allocator role, they would be interviewing one. They'd have to do a SWOT analysis. They'd have to do a group exercise where you'd watch their behaviour. It seemed like a big process now, but whether that just depends on the size of the company, because where I am now,
I think it can. I think there's definitely people who go in, have a half-an-hour interview. I've maths tested them in advance, and you know that they're good. But there are these big assessment centres which must be so nerve-wracking. You must feel like you're in some kind of horrible reality TV show or something. So over the years, merchandising has changed hugely. My God, it's changed hugely even in the last couple of years as well. What do you think the main changes have been throughout your career?
I think the biggest one is probably the emergence of online and how big online retail is now. So when I worked in Miss Selfridge as a junior merchandiser, the website had really only just launched, had hardly any SKUs on it. It's a very, very new thing. There's a couple of team, we all kind of chipped in what should be online, tried to monitor the sales. And hardly anyone had a website then. And if you look now at the websites, what they used to look like, the first kind of trials of them, they're very
kind of slowly clunking page to page.
And now you have places like, so when ASOS began, web only, and now you haven't got web experience and understand all the terminology, it's quite difficult even to get into, so it's changed hugely.
Yeah. And I suppose also the customer is more demanding now, because whereas X amount of years ago, you're quite happy with a delivery that takes 14 days. Whereas now, everyone wants everything instantly. Yeah. How's that affected what you do?
Yeah, I mean, now you can get, you can order up until midnight and still get next day delivery. You can order 3 or 4 sizes, send one back, much cheaper than sort of getting on the train into London. It's just, think it's affected things. When I was at House of Fraser, huge impacts on certain categories, occasion wear being one, where you could order multiple sizes and then the refund rate would be huge because they would only give me a dress out of 2 different colours, for example.
I wonder how much something like that has affected the general downturn in the profit being made by our retailers, because that's just money down the drain straight off, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, some departments would be about 30% returns rate, but occasion wear was about 100 every single week. If you couldn't try on a brand, you're going to order more than one size or more than one colour, and it's your bridesmaid. You can't, the staff that customer back because they only want one set. I mean, Warehouse, sadly, you know, rest in peace Warehouse, my favourite store ever. They would do same day delivery in London and within the M20 area. So it's just everything's become so much more accessible. And
much more
most people know they can do that. They expect it as well. Now people get if it takes 2 days when they want it next day. So,
but I do it as myself. I'll look through, whether it's through Amazon Prime or whether it's on a website, and if I want something, I don't really mind if I'm paying a little bit more if it's going to arrive within a day or two. I'd rather pay more and have it when I want it than have to wait. We're just so impatient as a shopper.
And I think that's been even more obvious with us being in lockdown, with certain things for, I don't know, gym equipment, which has been the biggie now.
It's essential.
The prices of that online, people have paid it because they can get it and they can get it the next day.
Yeah, no, quite. So obviously you've worked in big businesses like Arcadia, Mothercare. You've worked in the smaller businesses, like when you were at Envy. What do you think the pros and cons are of working in those very different ways?
For me, it's the bigger companies, amazing training, kind of classroom training or sort of headsets. Everyone was learning the same thing. So everyone who was at the same level would do the same training courses so that it all be up to the same speed. It made it easy then to know what level anyone was, if there was internal moves or recruitment going. Moving from Arcadia to Debenhams at the time was then easy because you'd have 3 levels of assistant merchandiser, so you would know from the level exactly what someone was capable of. Cons, I guess, depending on how loud you are and confident, it might have been a bit tricky to get noticed. You don't necessarily have to be loud and confident, but that's what I found, and that's what I noticed.
If there's any part of life in society, there's always that one that's pushing themselves more. But equally, when it comes down to ability, it's clear.
Exactly. It doesn't necessarily mean it, but I think it's just because you're a small fish in a big pond in a big company. You're kind of having to do a lot more to get noticed. The cons, I guess, then is that you would just be doing your role. You wouldn't probably get so much exposure to other functions. And the smaller companies, even my current job, you get exposure to finance, to operations, to our suppliers, the chocolate manufacturer. It's not, we're not dealing with overseas suppliers where I am now. Smaller, friendlier teams. And do you think that's the case? Do you think in a smaller business there is a heightened friendliness, or is that likely to be just as case in a small team within a bigger company anyway? In House of Fraser, I felt like even though it was one division, women's wear, which I was on for most of my time there, it did feel like a really nice small family. There's about 50 of us, but when I moved onto the home division, I'd never even been onto the home floor in 6 years. I didn't know anyone, so it did a different company. But the smaller companies, you do feel like you're with more of a family. I've been through some challenges in my roles. Envy had a couple of periods of administration and redundancy. You did feel like you were losing a family member each time. Particular job, a lot of us have stayed in touch because we kind of all went through it together, so you do have closeness and family. When you go through those difficult times, it definitely pulls you together. And obviously the other thing you've done in your career, never mind big and small, is also the fact that you've worked on women's wear, men's wear, children's wear, everything. What are your thoughts about the experience you've had and how much you've grown as a merchandiser through working across all those different areas? I think at the start, so my first role was at Evans. I'm not a target customer of Evans, so I wasn't sure how I'd get excited about it, but I was learning what a merchandiser did. And actually you do become really involved in the product, and because it's your area, you want it to do well. So on Monday sales, I'm excited, and I've ended up doing that everywhere I've gone. So menswear at Envy, again, I would buy it for a partner, so I again got involved. And then the kids, so I worked at Mothercare, my children were really young, and I've always been able to get an association with the product. There's still areas I feel like, no, I'd never want to work in, cookers or
nuts and bolts.
But even home at House of Fraser, I always thought I would not enjoy it, and it was such a brilliant year that I had when I was there. It was so different then, and I really and then now chocolate again. I wouldn't like chocolate, so
And I think the other thing is that there's always a sort of a theory that, and it's a fact, isn't it, that women's wear works at a much faster pace than other departments. And obviously, over the years, we've seen homeware become infinitely more trendy. And I always say, oh, well, you don't see a vase walking down a catwalk, which, until I'm wrong, is still a fact as well. But ultimately, there is seasonality within homeware. There's now much more trends to the colours.
Yeah, definitely.
And Hotel Chocolat, of course, has all sorts of different promotions through the year because of the different events, doesn't it?
Yeah, so we have a big core range that obviously runs all year round, but then we have Valentine's, Mother's Day, Father's Day. So those three are short, sharp seasons. This even more so. So we went into lockdown the weekend of Mother's Day. Things had been obviously on the horizon that it might happen just before. So it was a bit of a tough season. Valentine's Day was the same. It looked like until the last few days it was going to be not a success. And in the end, the end of Valentine's Day were huge and peaked on last year. And then the season for us, it's normally a very long season. It's been even this year round. We didn't have any Easter in store because the stores were all shut. And yet we had a fantastic season, only been able to sell online. And we're still now selling Easter online in the middle of June really well. So it just surprises you what, I
think that's people needing chocolate to get through lockdown.
Exactly, yeah. And then for us, Christmas starts in August with Advent calendar. So long and short seasons. It's, again, different from fashion, but still seasonality.
And still keeps you on your toes. So put your neck on the line. Which has been your favourite job and why?
Obviously, I love my current job. It started out as a cover last April, and I've been made permanent, and I'm really enjoying it. It's just a company to work for, very small team, and exposure to everyone and everything, and it's really and then before that, probably Envy, which was a menswear company, sadly no longer exists, as I touched on earlier.
There's a lot of that.
There's going to be a lot of that through my career. Nothing suits me, hopefully. Great.
And what about your favourite boss?
So, I mean, I would probably say my boss at Envy. She was a person. Her personality, the way she kind of coached us and just motivated the team. We had a lot of laughs there. It was fun workplace, and I mean, again, like I say, we have Envy reunions. We haven't had them for quite a while. Another one due, I expect. But we got on really well. Really good friend, and she made the job enjoyable. I can't think that. You have a job where you can't even think of a bad day that you had, and it was really sad. Envy went through some really
the day where it was sold for £1 and we all said, quick, let's get £1.10 together. But I know you're right about that team at Envy, because as you know, it was me that recruited most of that merchandising team, and I know they were all amazing people, and I can see why it was your favourite place.
And actually, there's quite a few of us stayed in merchandising. Other girls have gone into, and guys have gone into totally different careers. It's really nice seeing what they're doing online now. Now selling masks and got our own business. People have gone and had families and done, so it's really great to follow them still.
And back to merchandising, just a couple of technical questions.
Yes.
How much do you think merchandising is about instinct, and how much is it purely numbers?
I think with experience, it starts to be more about instinct. At the beginning, when I first learned what it was calculator out, every number had to tie back. I remember being told by my assistant merchandiser at Envy, who I think's now head of the Topshop, not sure. It's great. She said, if it's 5k out, it really doesn't matter. And I was like, no, it's £1,000. It must tie back. And everything was to the number. And I think as you get more experience, you start to learn your product. You just know if something's going to work or not, or what sort of sales it might take. So I think, and you just know. It's just one of those things, isn't it? You check your work.
And that's what's lovely. And that's, I think, why a lot of people stay working in the same product all their career. With denim or footwear, because they know so much about it. But of course, you've proved that you learn a new area, you can become an expert of lots of them, which is, gives you so much more breadth.
I mean, I was on linear women's wear at House of Fraser for 5 years, and I felt like I just inside out. And then Hotel Chocolat, I thought, oh no, I'm never. Your first week, you think, I'm never going to know it. I'm never going to understand. And one day, you think, oh, I do, and that's it.
Yeah, satisfying. So my final question is, what key piece of advice would you give to someone in merchandising watching? I mean, whether it's someone at the very start of their career or somebody maybe even at sort of senior merch manager level, what would you say your key advice is?
I think probably, it sounds a bit cliche, but look up, not look down. I think you should look at what you want. Look at what you want to be, where you want to go, and kind of look, again, if you've got a great manager and you can aspire to be like them. It's a good kind of...
So I guess for an MAA, start forming like an assistant merchandiser.
Yes, and I think in a huge company as well. So for me at Evans, on my first job, I probably wouldn't have looked up to my director because I probably wouldn't have even, she wouldn't have known who I was then. But at smaller companies, again, you can probably look a bit higher, but it just shows you what you can achieve and where.
Yeah, well, and you have, and that's amazing. Thank you so much for joining me for the final lockdown video. Thank you to everybody who's watched these last 9 videos. If you caught all 9, you deserve some kind of medal. And yeah, hope to see you all in real life soon.
In the shops.
All the best. Yeah, I'll see you in the shops. Thanks, Amy. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.